Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Watching the World. We have the weekly legal review that we have every Sunday Eastern Time at 3 p.m. Thank you for joining in. We have a lot of updates from this week, especially when it comes to the President of the United States. Also, when it comes to Sean Diddy Combs, and a lot of people are talking about what's happening in Texas. And speaking of Texas, we are privileged to have a criminal defense attorney here today, and his name is Calvin Johnson. We'd like to welcome Calvin.
How's everybody doing? I am attorney Calvin D. Johnson. I am a practicing criminal defense attorney out of the state of Texas. I've been practicing law for the last 25 years almost. Next year will be my 25th year practice. I practice law at the local, state, and federal level. I have experience doing RICO cases. I have experience doing bigger time federal cases, and I've been practicing law on my own since I got out of law school. In addition to that, I'm a former city council candidate. I also hold degrees in history and political science, and so I am well versed at criminal defense, politics, and history. And today we're going to talk about a number of things that are going on in the current legal environment. Thanks to Mel for inviting me on. And the way you can get in touch with Calvin D. Johnson is at my email at attorneykalvindjohnson@gmail.com. I can also be reached at 214-565-5600, or I can be reached at my website, the greatest website that's out there, theywon'tletmeout.com. So that's who I am. That's what I do. And I'm just happy that you guys have joined us for today's show.
All right. Thank you for joining us this week. We always enjoy having you around answering those tough questions. Everybody wants the legal perspective on a lot of subjects that we talk about here on the channel. One of the big things that's happened over the last couple of weeks is that Donald Trump has changed the pharmaceutical industry. He's asked them to lower the prices. What do you think about that?
Hey, anytime we can get those prices lowered, I'm in favor of that. I hope he can do it. I know there are nuances to how you can do that. I hope that they listen to him and lower the prices. I hope they can do that. Anybody who is trying to help us be able to afford our medicine, I'm in favor of that. I'm hoping that they can do that. It's just a business thing, and they have to figure out ways to make sure that that works for them. But hopefully they should put it in because they're already making enough profits off of us. Let's try to get people the medicine they need. And if the president is going to do that, then I support that.
You know, a lot of people are struggling, especially when it comes to cancer and all these other diseases, various illnesses. What do you think it took so long for us to get here?
Well, it's kind of tough. I think there's a lot of money being made because America is a capitalist country, don't get me wrong. So sometimes when government becomes involved in trying to assist folks with their medical care, sometimes government can get in the way of profiting by these companies. And sometimes these companies can get in the way of actually providing the medicine to the people because they want to make a certain amount of profit. And sometimes people don't understand that when some of these pharmaceutical companies realize that the government is going to pay for it, that's when their prices go up. They want to make as much money as they can. And I think we got to figure out a way to work around that.
Donald Trump claimed that one of his close associates was dealing with some sort of illness, moved to Europe, and was paying roughly $1,800 for medication here in the United States. And he claims that in Europe, he only had to pay $38. Does that sound plausible to you?
It definitely sounds plausible. I think some of the people in the medical industry, just like anything else, and this is why I always try to have a conversation with people. Sometimes running a business is not the same thing as providing something from the federal government or providing a service. Medicine becomes a service in an instance, but you got the business component because you have big companies providing the medicine. And so what are they going to do? They are going to want to make as much money as possible. They have to be responsible to their shareholders and the people that bought their stock and the people that work there. So they want to make as much profit as possible. And it's gotten to a point where that profit has become sometimes unconscionable to the taxpayers because a certain medicine should not cost certain amounts of money. And I think if he is going to try to fight to reduce the prices of medicine, hey, I cannot argue with that.
When it comes to the various illnesses that we face, especially as Americans, do you think there's an extra level out there where people can actually get more efficient medication, or is that a myth?
I don't think it's a myth, but I also think that we have to understand once again it's capitalism in America. So if people can figure out how to make an extra buck, how to make an extra dollar, they're going to do that. And so when you have that situation be what it is, you everybody has to understand that that is what's going to happen. People are going to want to make their money. They're going to want to make their profit. This is like I said, this is a capitalist country, and so is there a way to get it done? Yes, but we have to get it done in a way to where maybe we limit some of those profits, but we don't take completely over the ability of the companies to invest enough money in developing these medicines so they can actually get to the public at a decent price.
Now, speaking of the President of the United States, Donald Trump, it seems that this whole Epstein situation is not going away. Do you see that changing anytime soon?
No, it's not going away, because when you think about it, it was uh, issue number one or 1A when it comes to what the government was doing. A lot of people thought that the government was covering things up for Epstein, and they thought that putting Donald Trump in there, that the genie bottle was going to be opened. And what I think that they're finding is that he might have been in the genie bottle with him. And I think that's part of the problem. President Trump has to definitely understand that these people are going to want to know answers. And I think that I have great concern about his involvement with Epstein, because it seemed to me that the Clintons, the Trumps, and everybody else in power had some kind of relationship with these Epstein folks. And I think that it's crazy to think, with the way and the amount of money that Epstein had, that Mr. Trump and his people didn't have any doings with Epstein. I think they all did. And if they all did, Mr. Trump needs to come out and let that information out so that the general public understands what has happened.
Now, as you know, I attended Sean Diddy Combs' trial. I also attended Donald Trump's trial here in New York City. I actually had a chance to interact with the president during his trial. Here's a question for you. Todd Blanche was his attorney during that trial, and we know he walked away with 34 felonies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Todd Blanche also went to meet with Maxwell to ask her various questions about the whole Epstein ordeal. Do you think that Todd Blanche is some sort of fixer for the president?
He may be at this point, because I think that what happens, even if he wasn't a fixer, he might be a fixer now. Because once you share certain information with your attorney, man, y'all become almost like one. Now, I'm going to tell you, your attorney should not be involved in anything criminal with you. But when you start to share certain information, you don't want to have a bunch of attorneys or a bunch of different legal minds with your information. You want to keep that information close to the hip. And if Mr. Blanche worked on him with that, he might have trusted Mr. Blanche enough to go and talk to Ms. Maxwell. And so that's kind of par for the course. You don't want all your business out there. That's why when some people use one attorney, they keep using that attorney, because they don't want all their additional information getting out of there.
Is there a reason why they didn't send maybe formal FBI members or someone else along for the visit?
I think there is a reason for that. Number one, Trump doesn't trust the FBI. Number two, he can't control their information. They work for the government. They don't work for him. And he wants people to be beholden to him. And so that is going to be a problem. When I say it's going to be a problem, because what if they found out something that's not beneficial to him, or that puts him in a bad light and they have to share it? Then that's where he's going to have a problem. So we got to be extremely careful of separating Trump, the president, from Trump, the person, when it comes to dealing with Ms. Maxwell.
Now, after Todd Blanche went and met with Maxwell, they changed her location to a better equipped prison, softer. What do you think about that?
Hey, man, she is using whatever information she has to be able to get what she needs. When you think about it, this is somebody, Ms. Maxwell, that had the ability to have access to $1 billion. Even when she was hiding out, she literally was hiding out in a castle down near a mansion out there close to nowhere, where nobody knew who she was. And she didn't even have a cell phone. And when she did have a cell phone, they said that it was wrapped in foil to try to make sure that nobody triangulated her location. So she is not used to being in the digs at a federal penitentiary. So to be moved to a minimum security unit is great for her, because there's a lot of freedom to move around. It's not as enclosed. and there's a little bit more freedom to do things you would like to do. And you're also away from the violent, crazy inmates that are at the regular prisons.
Now, they're talking about giving Maxwell a pardon, but when we look at the stories that came from various victims, they often said that Maxwell was instrumental in setting up the play, setting up the abuse and the arrangements. Should she deserve a pardon?
No, man. It's clear. I don't think she deserves a pardon, because you have to realize she was that go-between. She was a gopher. She was a guinea pig. So it was almost like, and I always tell sometimes people of money and influence, if your client has money and influence, he shouldn't be directly touching the dirt if they're doing dirt. You should always have a few go-betweens that are able to take responsibility when dirt is discovered. And so I think Maxwell is kind of that in-between person. She's that fall person to take the case if something happens. And I think that she doesn't deserve immunity, because she shouldn't be getting that. I mean, she is basically violating the law and being told by Epstein to do it. And she shouldn't get a pardon because she has information. That's just my personal opinion.
How do you think this is going to play out when it comes to the president? We see him this week. He was on top of the roof of the White House talking about renovations that he's going to fund personally. He's talking about a lot of his wins. Do you think this is ultimately going to have a negative impact on his presidency?
I think the Maxwell situation will, but I'm also smart enough to know that the Republican Party and those people that are in there and the MAGA folks, they are really focused on making sure that they maximize the redrawing of congressional lines, they're maximize tax breaks, they're maximizing all of the other things that they wanted to get in office and do. And so they're not going to worry about some of the other stuff. They're going to go big ticket items, and they're going to change as much as possible to protect their wealthy friends and protect their ideas by passing laws and funding those laws with money from the federal government. So they're going to make sure that they continue to handle their business, even though the other stuff is going on. It's not as important as them doing what they need to do. So that's what I think about that.
Okay, a lot of watchers on this channel, they say, well, if the Democrats had anything on Donald Trump, they would have used it while they were losing and running for the election. What's your position?
And see, that's the thing. I think that the Democrats wasted a lot of time. It seemed like that they went after Mr. Trump on 2 or 3 occasions. They got their 34 convictions. He never went to jail. And I think they spent so much time doing that they probably should have been spending more time changing policy, changing people's situations, changing ideas, changing all of these other things that we could be put in place to protect people from some of the things that are happening to them now.
Okay. Do you think that there's a serious problem as to why there's not a distinct leader of the Democratic Party right now?
I think there is. I think they're in flux. And when I say I think that they're in flux, and this has been my experience with the Democratic Party, and this is why I have a problem with them. Once the leader gets in there, man, he stays or she stays 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and they're not big on growing future leaders. So if I'm Nancy Pelosi and I got there 40 years ago, they're going to keep her there, keep her there, keep her there until the end. And then the more she's there, the more seniority she has in the organization. And I don't think that they've done a good job of developing future leaders. And I think that's a huge problem for the party, because you can't identify, number one, the leader now, but more importantly, who's going to be the leader in the future. They're too fragmented because people are fighting for that position because there was no clear line of succession.
It seems that Donald Trump, in effect, kind of crippled the Democratic Party. Is that believable?
I don't know if he crippled the Democratic Party. I think that they crippled themselves. And the reason why I say they crippled themselves is because the public told them that the economy was important. They told them that immigration was important. They told them that foreign relations were important when it came to dealing with the financial issues of trade. And not to say that abortion, LGBTQ issues, and other issues were not important, but the public was more concerned about the financial issues, the kitchen table issues. And I don't think that the Democratic Party listened to them enough. Now, some Democrats will get mad at me because they'll say, well, we did talk about those things. We did talk about those things. But to me, they led with abortion. They led with race relations. They led with DEI. They led with LGBTQ issues. They led with a lot of more social issues that I don't think really move the needle for the average voter. As a matter of fact, what I think has happened is it decreased the amount of participation by Democrats because they were not encouraged to vote. And I think it increased the number of Republicans who decided to vote because they were concerned about the economy. They were concerned about immigration. They were concerned about foreign trade and foreign relations. And they were energized by that, and they got their vote out and they were able to win.
The border is common sense, though. Why couldn't the Democrats have done more during the Biden administration?
I think for several reasons. Number one, they have an idea of just free borders or people allowing people to just immigrate, right? That's kind of what it is. They say America, hey, is made as a country of immigrants. People came from all over the world here, yada, yada, this, yada, yada, that. But I think that there was a failure to adjust to the times by the Democrats and Republicans. I'm not going to hold the Republicans, free of any of this. There was no clear immigration policy. People were just coming over like they wanted to. And I think that when finances get strained and you start to spend a lot of money taking care of people that are immigrating here, then it becomes a huge problem. And I think the Democrats start spending a lot of money taking care of immigrants when you had, for example, a African-American population of voters who 90% of the females vote for Democrats, 80% of the males vote for Democrats, and they were not being taken care of. Now, I have a conversation with you. A lot of people say, well, when it comes to the women, yeah, a lot of them will put front and center. But when it came to black men, anytime we complained, what we ended up having was President Obama coming in, pointing his finger at us, telling us who we better vote for. He was going to call Michelle on us. And I think that wasn't a good look for the Democratic Party. And I think it was disrespectful to the second most faithful group of voters to your party to treat them in a manner instead of actually dealing with their issues.
Yeah, someone in the audience, Dave, says they opened the border to solidify their voting base. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think when you look at it, I think in a sense they figured that if people did immigrate, most of those immigrants would be Democrats, right?
Right.
Because they would be beholden to people that allowed them to come in the country. But that's not always the case. We had a lot of people that were Hispanic nature that voted Republican. And even some of the immigrants who were not citizens, they were really supporting the Republicans because they are kind of conservative in a way. When you have a decent immigrant family that comes over here, they are more conservative than they are liberal. I guess the Democrats figured that if we let them over here, then because we're the party that let them over and let them stay here, that they're going to be beholden to us and they're going to vote for us. And number one, I don't think that's always the case. Number two, there were just too many folks just coming over. And people have to realize, right? If you're a man, you got a family, you're trying to figure out how you can feed your family. So you want to make sure you can get that job. And you don't want random people coming from another country that you don't know what their criminal history is. You don't know what they're doing over there. You know what they've done over there. There's a lot of stuff safety-wise that I don't think the Democrats thought about. And so that's what I think about that in particular.
Now, when it comes to the border policy, it seems that a lot of Hispanics still voted for Donald Trump only to have their relatives sent back across the line. What do you think? And not only across the line, a lot of them were sent to countries that they did not originate. What are your thoughts?
Hey, man, that's the one big thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why some of the African-American community got mad. It was like, look, y'all tell us to get lock, stop, and step. And your folks didn't even get lock, stop, and step. And the problem with that is, and like I said before, some people think, well, if the party let them in and let them come over, they should support that party that let them come in, let them come over. But the party itself has not been one where, to me, Hispanic culture of those countries, Hispanic, the people that are from, let's say, Mexico, Venezuela, Cuba, those other places, they typically have very conservative values. They're very straight family, one man, one woman, kids. They're strictly, we make decisions on what happens to our children. They're strictly about doing the normal thing as opposed to the anything goes that it seems like now that the Democratic Party is taking hold. Even when it comes to abortion, I mean, you still got some Catholics, right, that are Hispanic that don't like the idea of abortions, but you got a lot of people in our party that want to protect the rights of those particular individuals, and I definitely understand that. But when you are letting people over from another country and they have a different set of values, even though you let them in, doesn't mean they're going to stay with you. And I think that was part of the problem for the Democratic Party.
Donald Trump came up with a new format, basically, especially when it comes to the farmers, that they are responsible for a certain amount of immigrants, perhaps. What are your thoughts about that? Some people say it's modern day slavery.
Yeah, that's a problem, because if they can't get the workers, they're not going to be able to get the workers. I mean, let's be honest, black folk ain't going back to farming. They're not going to do it. So somebody has to do that farm work. And I think that sometimes when you do stuff as a country, sometimes it has unprepared for consequences. Like when you get rid of those immigrants, then who is going to get out and do that farming? Who's going to get out and harvest? Who's going to get out and do this and do that? So some things create unforeseen consequences. And I think Trump's immigration policy, in a sense, in some situations, has created that specifically for farmers.
Here's a question that's a little bit outside of the box. In court, being that you are a criminal defense attorney, they have you swear on the Bible or whichever you prescribe to.
Mm-hmm.
So they put God on the table. Why won't they accept the argument that the devil made me do it if you're accepting God?
Well, you know what? It's funny as you talk about that. And even with that nowadays, because of the way people are objecting to God, even in the courts. And I think that's another problem that the Democratic Party has that nobody is talking about. They're supporting a lot of policies like abortion, which some people biblically think that is wrong. They're supporting LGBTQ rights. And then there's some people that are in the Christian faith or that are followers of God that say, hey, that's not something that should happen. And I think that the Democratic Party definitely shuns any conversations when you start talking about that. Like I said before, I don't have anything against LGBTQ people. I want their rights to be protected. I want them to be able to do whatever they want to do. And when it comes to abortion, I wouldn't support my family getting an abortion or my wife getting an abortion. But at the same time, there are people that want to do that. And sometimes we want to legislate what they can and can't do. But biblically, the way I read it, that's something that should not happen. And that's something that on my end, that I wouldn't do. But I don't want to take the rights away of somebody else to do it, because at the end of the day, it's their choice. And I don't want to get in the middle of that. But once again, there's certain values religiously that the Democratic Party no longer aligns with. So there are a lot of people of faith that have decided that because of some of the policies that they support, that they're not going to move forward and continue to support the party.
You know, another big subject for the Republican Party through Donald Trump was that education would be kicked back to the states. But recently, as of this week, we see that that's getting a lot of kickback because a lot of Republicans in red states are saying, no, we need the funding from the federal government and our local municipalities. What do you think?
And see, that's the thing within itself. The red states are always last in education. I'm going to be honest with you. When I say they're last in education, they're last in performance, they're last in pay. A lot of these red states don't pay their teachers and their educators enough. And they need money from the federal government. These red states are poor. These red states that do not have major cities like Dallas, Houston, Chicago, San Antonio, San Diego, LA, New York, those places like that, they don't have big cities to help them compensate and pay all the money that they need to be able to do what they need to do. There are cuts that are happening. And I think that the people that voted for Mr. Trump need to understand one thing. He just gave a lot of these companies a huge tax cut. It ain't just going to be folks that voted against him in the election that are going to get hurt. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to get hurt because of his cuts, especially in some of these smaller states and some of these small Texas towns.
Okay, very good. So it looks like they're worried about the midterms. That's why you have this big problem happening in Texas when it comes to the redistricting and why the Democrats had to flee the state. Do you think there's any updates you could share with us?
Well, there is. And I'll tell you, I know that a lot of the Democrats went to Chicago area, Illinois, and other states that were very, very supportive of the Democrats. And I think what you have is you got a situation upon which where they're trying to take or just disenfranchised voters that are in these cities. And I always try to tell people it's great that, Texas is going to stay red, but in the cities we're blue. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to neutralize those huge urban populations so that they can actually hurt the people in the cities. For example, when you have places like Houston and Dallas have the largest African American populations when you combine them together, that's in any state across the country. So you cannot disenfranchise those voters. When I say disenfranchise those voters, the new congressional maps literally took away the two African American representatives and the fourth largest metropolitan area in the entire United States. To me, that's race. That's something that's going to be a problem. And that's something that we can't have, because even if you say it's not race, the way that you actually drew it up created a situation where a lot of people are going to be disenfranchised because they're not going to be able to vote for, or they'll be able to vote for the person that they want, but they're being thrown in a district, and a district is being drawn that is going to create a situation where that particular person that they voted for can't win. And so that's part of the problem. And the other thing is, and without paying too much attention to the comments, a lot of the cities, yes, they do have higher crime rates, but at the same time, you got a lot more people, you got a lot of more population density. So you're going to have some of those things that happen. But with that being said, that it is what it is, and we have to figure out ways, especially in our cities, to govern ourselves. Number one, to reduce crime, because I'm not anti-police. I want people out there to be able to live their lives, run their businesses without the threat of being destroyed. But at the same time, we have to figure out ways when it comes to voting and drawing congressional districts that you don't disenfranchise people. And that's what they were doing, because when you put out a map that takes away the two people, African-American delegation that comes out of Texas, then that's what you just did.
What do you think should happen to the Democrats that fled?
Well, I think the Republicans, this is a game that a lot of people in a lot of states play. I mean, what's going to happen to them? I mean, I don't think you should be arresting people and trying to make them come back. I don't think you should be doing that. But at the same time, this is going to be political gamesmanship. And I think what's going to happen is, if we're not careful, if you do this to a place like Texas, then California, New York, and some of the Democratic states, they're going to retaliate. And I don't think that they should be doing this. I don't think we should be doing this. I don't think we should be disenfranchising people, because if you disenfranchise an African-American community, what's going to happen when the Democrats win? They're going to want to go out and they're going to want to disenfranchise the people that did it to them. And I don't think that we should start doing that, because it could really result in some ugly consequences that could continue on down the line. What could happen is they could go down, and this could continue to happen one way or the other. And I think that is what it is. And I think that's what we got to be careful about. And then when you start talking about arresting people and all this stuff, man, you can't talk about doing that kind of stuff, because you do that kind of stuff, man, people are serving their country. They got elected in the public office. When you start talking about arresting people, man, that could be a problem, because, like I said before, I'm glad I'm not in Congress, because nobody's putting a hand on me, taking me anywhere. That's just my attitude. I'm just being honest. So maybe it's a good reason why I'm not in office, because no, sir, that ain't happening here.
So let's say I was a Democrat in Texas and I fled to New York. What's next for me? My family is there in Texas and I have to come back home. What does that scenario look like in real time?
Do you have to come back home? Because, with the way they look at it, is coming home is actually being in a situation where you're going to be disenfranchising your family, your voters, and the people who elected you. I mean, people have to understand, when you draw these new maps and you do them the way you did them, you basically disenfranchise a group of people. Like the person that got elected in this particular district, you're taking that district away from them. You're taking their representative away from them and say, no, y'all go over here where they already got an 80% vote lead on y'all. So when you start to do that to people, you can't do that to people. That's something that should not happen, because you start drawing maps that are not representative of a population that exists in a particular area of a state. And when you start doing stuff like that, man, that cannot happen.
Could you just take a moment and tell everybody that's coming in who you are and how they can find you?
Hey, listen, let me tell y'all this. I am attorney Calvin D. Johnson. I've been practicing law for 24 years in the state of Texas. I'm a former Dallas City Council candidate. I am a criminal defense lawyer. I do state, local, and federal criminal defense. I also hold a a degree from Howard Payne University, and I double majored in political science and history. So I have been involved in politics. I talk politics, and I practice criminal defense law. And I'm well versed in the politics that's happening right now in Texas and across the country. So that's kind of what I do. I can be reached in Dallas, Texas at the phone number of 214-565-5600. I can be reached by email at attorneykalvindjohnson@gmail.com. And of course, the greatest website in the world is theywon'tletmeout.com. And so that's kind of who I am. That's what I do. And right now I am boots on the ground in Texas. I actually personally know Jasmine Crockett. I've met Mark Vesey. I've met a lot of the people that are politically connected here in Texas. And I'm very knowledgeable about what's happening right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you make an argument that what they're doing in Texas, Louisiana is illegal from the state standpoint?
What do you mean what they're doing as far as leaving the state?
Or doing the actual redistrict earlier than prescribed?
I think it is illegal in a sense, the way I look at it. I think that is discriminatory. I think that when you draw maps and you take away the maps of people that are actually dissenting in Congress, and that's the way that you're going to punish them, I think that the way that they're using redistricting now is to punish dissent. Jasmine Crockett and the president and the Republicans and the current Congress do not get along. So you draw her out of her district. You draw Al Green out of his district. You draw Mark Vesey out of his district. So when you start to do things like that, and you start to use your redistricting as a weapon, I think that's very, very dangerous. I think that sets a bad precedent, not just for now, but it sets a bad precedent for the future, because you're doing that to people who don't agree with you. And to me, that map, to me, is illegal because it's going to directly disenfranchise a lot of African-American voters. And then the fact that you are actually punishing people for not agreeing with you is something that I think should be illegal.
Thank you. We want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We have this show every week, Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Central. And we'd like to thank you guys for hitting the like button, sharing, and subscribing. We really do appreciate the enormous support that we've been getting for this. We've been doing it for about 7 to 8 weeks now, and it has been so wonderful. Calvin, let me ask you something. Do you think Donald Trump is the man behind this whole movement of redistricting?
I think he is. I think he's part of it, but I think there's a bigger thing at play here. I think the Republicans are very knowledgeable. I think that they're very smart. I think that they understand what they're doing. They have a plan in place. They have a map in place where they want to take control as much as possible to make sure that the country stays a way that they want it to be. Let's be honest, right? This country, for some of those people in the Republican Party, has been going in the wrong direction. They are very much traditionalists. So they are in favor of traditional families. They are in favor of what they would call normalcy. They're not big supporters of abortion. They're not big supporters of LGBTQ rights. They're not a big supporter of change. And they feel like that a lot of these things are being pushed onto them. Look at what's happening in some of our schools with some of the stuff, gender-based stuff that's being taught in schools. I'm gonna be honest with you, I have a 7-year-old daughter. I don't want the stuff that's being taught in schools about trans and all this other stuff to be taught right now. I would rather deal with that in my household. I have nothing against LGBTQ people or trans people, but I want to make sure that I get my hand to help my daughter learn about that, what I wanted to learn. I think introducing certain things too early to kids should not be something that the government is doing. Even though I'm a Democrat, that's something that I feel, and there's the problem. You've got a lot of policies that the Democrats are either pushing or okay with that are really taking people away from that party. The Republicans are. What do we think is going to happen when you see that the population numbers change, and when you see the hue of America change? There's rumors that by 2035. There would be more Hispanics than whites in America. And so when you start coming up on that, that's about 10 years away. Do you think that a country that has been majority white for a number of years, for 400 years, is going to want another group of people to overtake them and overtake their value in their spaces. I think the Democratic Party should be prepared to try to deal with those things. Also, number one, to try to stem the tide of having those people be fearful of what's going to happen. But with that being said, I expect Republicans to stay on message. I respect them to go and change as much as possible, because in their eyes, they're fighting for a country to stay that way, to stay the way it's been for the last 400 years. And they're going to want to continue to do that. A lot of this change is not something they're going to be in favor of, because it's going to take some of their power away. And I think the Democrats have to understand that. And whatever the Democrats decide that they are going to try to achieve, they need to get on message. They need to sit down and talk to their constituents. They need to make sure that the constituents want to actually do and partake in some of the policies and stances that they have taken, as opposed to having party heads tell us what we can and can't do, what we can and can't talk about. And that's the thing. And then we have to understand too. I tell people this all the time. I have gay friends. There's another attorney friend of mine who is trans, and I support her. I want her to be okay. And my gay friends, I love them. They're great people. I have no problem with them. But at the same time, there's a little bit of issue with the way that some other people feel like things are being pushed on them. And I'm not saying it's being pushed on me, but there are a lot of people that feel like, hey, things are being made to be done a certain way. Now, me personally, I have anything against anybody gay, anything against anybody that's trans. I want them to be okay. I want them to feel welcome. But at the same time, there are some things, there's some people in this country that feel like that they have been left no choice, that they are being pushed and forced to do certain things. And that's where we're going to have our problem. I mean, some people say, well, and the majority are going to say, well, why do I have to do this so that somebody else can be comfortable? And then the other side is saying, you should make me comfortable regardless of how you feel. And so that's kind of where you have the rub.
When it comes to Texas and Louisiana, these states, some people say racism is at the heart of the matter. What are your thoughts?
I think that what happens is you have, when you talk about racism, I think you got to be careful when you say that, because I think that everybody feels comfortable with people who look like them. You know what I'm saying? So when you have a set of folks that are advocating for people who look like them, then some people will say that's racism. That's racist. And I think you got to be careful about that, because as a Black person, I want people who look like me to be okay. But I think that when you start to make decisions publicly, when you try to attack people, you try to kill people, you try to hurt people, you try to take people's rights away, that's racism. But I think part of it is we have our groups. Hispanic folks have their groups, white folks have their groups, and Black folks have our groups, and everybody else got their group. So I think we got to be extremely careful when we start talking about that. However, the history of America and the people who have ran America have been white. And so they have had the power, they have the legacy, they have the foundation. And so a lot of people are going to feel like they're disenfranchised when you have this group of people deciding, hey, we're going to knock those Black folks out of Congress. We're going to deport these Mexicans back to Mexico. So everybody has to be aware of how it's going to look. So a lot of that is racism. I mean, that's the truth. But some of it is just trying to make sure that the people that they support and the people that they know continue to stay in positions to where they can make those changes.
A lot of people, when it comes to Donald Trump, they have issues saying the good that he does versus the bad. What is your take on that? Can you honestly say, hey, the president made a good call on pharmaceuticals?
And see, that's the issue that I have. There are some things that he has done that has been good. And I'm not going to go and say, hey, everything Trump does is bad. That's not what I'm going to do, because I don't think that's responsible. Am I in support of him on some of his other issues? No. I don't like the way that he doesn't keep his word. I don't like the way in the past where he has not paid people who have done work for him. I don't like some of the language that he uses. And I don't like some of the rhetoric that he allows out of his campaign and sometimes out of his own mouth. But at the same time, there are some good things that he does. But I think that we have to be honest about, hey, if he does something good, give him credit. If he does something bad, hey, talk about it. I'm not one of these people that are going to be, oh, I hate Trump. Oh, I hate the other side. Not for the most part. I definitely understand what he wants to do. The Republican Party know that they have a strong advocate in him, and they know that he can help them achieve all of their goals. And so they're going to push him and push his brand as long and as hard as possible so they can achieve the money policy and the demographic goals that they want to achieve. And I definitely understand that. And that's just the truth. To be honest with you, I'm a little different. I'm not concerned about the way Trump feels about me, or that some people that think like him feel about me. I'm not really concerned about that. I'm more concerned about what I can do with my people to be able to get us where we need to be, where we need to go. Now, of course, there's going to be some issues, and I have to deal with Mr. Trump and people who think like him when it comes to certain things. But I'm more engaged in what I can control as opposed to always worrying about him.
Okay, so time is moving on, so we have to switch gears a little bit to Sean Diddy Combs. Over the last week, the defense attorneys for Puffy, Diddy, they've been sort of telling a different narrative as far as being pardoned. Westmoreland said one thing, Agnifilo said another. Is that common amongst a defense legal team?
Man, yeah, because they know a couple of things, right? They need some help. Let's be honest, they need some help and they know it. We've been on this podcast a long time, and people rake me over the coals when I said, hey, I feel like Mr. Trump's going to do 2.5, 3 years, 4 years, maybe 5 years. With the time that he's already spent in jail, maybe he'll do another 2 or 3 or 4 years. People got mad at me when I said that, but I don't give a damn. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all like it is. Look at what's happening right now. On 5 occasions when Mr. Trump has tried to go home, they denied his ability to be able to go home. If that judge was going to let him go home, he let him go home by now. The other part of it is this. I know Mr. Combs, usually when somebody gets accused of something like this, they don't get the amount of time of 3, 4, and 5 years in prison when they're a first time felon like that, and they have these 2 kind of convictions. But Mr. Combs is not your average defendant. This has been a high profile case. And then people argue with me about, well, he didn't get convicted of the Cassie thing. He didn't get convicted of that. He didn't get convicted of this and that. But people can say whether they want to say. But anytime that you have a video where you have a man, a black man, trying to kick a woman in the head like she got a football on her head, like it's a football stand, and he's trying to kick a field goal, that's going to be a problem. The optics of that look extremely, extremely bad. So what's going to happen? They're not going to treat Puffy like the average person that picked up that particular case. Now, I always tell people, if one person gets a sentence and gets convicted of a particular crime, I feel like the other person should get a close or similar sentence to that. But the problem that's going to happen is, and I think the judge actually kind of gave us a little bit of a precursor when he was telling the state, hey, I need you to come back with A, B, and C, which means he's telling the state, come back with reasons why, if you say that I need to be able to give him between 50 and 51 and 63 months. Tell me why you think that's so. Show me other cases where that has happened. Show me other situations where somebody got more time than they were supposed to get. And I tell you what the state going to do. The state is going to go find a situation in a place to where somebody got more time than 2 or 3 years. That's why when they're asking for basically 4 to 5 years in prison, they're going to try to justify that. Now, the argument is Mr. Combs is going to go and pull all the cases where people like him got less time or even got time served. But remember what happened when the jury came back with his verdict. The judge initially seemed like he was going to try to let Mr. Combs go home, and something happened. He went back to chambers. He came back and his attitude was different. And I'm going to tell y'all something. I've been in federal court before. I've been in courtroom with judges, and it gets to a point where you understand kind of what's going on. When somebody comes back and they have a completely different attitude, he thought about it, somebody said something, or something hit him while he was in chambers, and something has convicted him to say, you know what? I'm not going to treat this like it's a slap on the hand. I'm going to treat this seriously. I'm going to consider giving the state the time that they're requesting. And you think about this. What did Puffy do and what did his lawyers do? They filed a motion for what? For him to be released. And they're pointing to what? Other people in this situation that were released. And they're pointing to what? The amount of time that people who have got convicted of this crime got. The reason why they're doing that is this. If I'm Puffy's lawyer, that's exactly what I'm doing. Because I need to remind the judge, hey, Johnny got 2 years when this happened, or Johnny got 18 months when this happened. I should get 18 months because I'm more like Johnny. And what the state's going to do is, he's not like Johnny. He's unique. He's like Jimmy. Jimmy got 55 months for something that most people get 18 months for, but because Jimmy had A, B, C, D, and E in his case. And they're going to find a case that says Puffy had A, B, C, D, and E, and the judge should be justified in giving him that sentence. And so that's kind of what's happening here. There's a little bit of a tug of war when it comes to this. I try to explain to people, some people get their personal feelings in the sentencing issue. That's not my job. Whether I like Puffy or not, whether I like him as a person, whether I like his music, whether I like the judge or not, or whether I like the state or not. Hey, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I'm all for, I don't like people to get too much time. I feel like, hey, somebody being locked up for a certain amount of time, I don't think that she continue to be locked up. I think being locked up for a certain amount of time is punishment enough. But the truth of the matter is, if you asking me my honest opinion, based on everything that I have saw in my 24, 25 years of practicing law, this is coming from a lawyer who practices in federal court, who's been in front of numerous judges who have done federal sentencings for a number of people. I'm thinking that Mr. Combs is probably going to get a sentence that's going to create a situation where he has to do anywhere from another 2 to 3 years incarcerated. That's just my opinion. And if you don't like that, then that is what it is. And I know a lot of people fall on one side or the other, but if Sean Combs sat down with me right now, I'd be like, Mr. Combs, we're going to try to keep this from happening to you. But I think this is the direction it's going into based on my knowledge and experience in doing this. And I'm going to tell people all the time, some people will come on, oh, I've been locked up. I've been in the system. I know how this goes. You lawyers come on here. Man, anybody doing that mess, whatever. You can say what you want to say. But because you made some bad mistakes in your life, you don't get to come over here and tell me or other people like me who actually have the experience what to think and what to say. No, I'm just being honest with you. Based on what I see, based on my over 2 decades of experience, based on me doing federal sentencings before, this is what I think is going to happen. He's probably going to have to do, in addition to the 11 months or 12 months he's already done, he's probably going to have to do another 2 to 3 years and be released. Now, I know there's classes he can take. So honestly, anywhere from 18 months to another 2.5 years, I think he's going to have to do, and he'll be home. But I think they're going to make him do some additional time. I'm just being honest with you.
Sean Diddy Combs' lead attorney, Mark Agnifilo, this week said that we could look forward to Sean Diddy Combs being back in the Madison Square with a big concert. What do you think about that? Does that help the case or hurt it?
I think it hurts it. I wouldn't be saying that. But also, I think that he also has to be careful because you don't want to sell your client doom. They're paying you a lot of money. And you want to be encouraged. Now, being encouraged also means that even as an attorney, and I'll tell y'all this, we always believe that we can give people less time than they would have gotten. We think we can make the best arguments to get them home as quickly as possible. I always tell people, honestly, my closing arguments are like sermons. My closing arguments are like sermons. I do a great job closing the case out. So I'm always going to feel that I can get a guy home. I fight for it. I mean, I fight so hard for my clients, and I tell people this all the time. I treat it like I'm going to go to jail. I'm treated like, hey, if I get this guy home, man, I just feel like a king. But man, if he goes to jail, I feel like a rat. I feel like a knucklehead. I feel like a failure. Even though it's not my fault that he's getting more time or less time, I want to fight as hard as possible to get him home. But with that being said, there are times in certain situations with certain people that they're going to actually have to do some time.
Another thing that Mark Agnifilo said is that Diddy wants to be a domestic violence counselor when he gets out. What are your thoughts?
Nah, man, that's not something that he should be talking about. You have to truly realize this, and I want you to tell y'all this. Domestic violence is very, very serious, right? Anytime that anybody who has a daughter, a mother, a sister, an aunt, a cousin, or wife, anytime wrong is wrong. And anytime you put your hands on a woman, especially like that, that's just not a good look. And anybody who has done that, to say that I'm going to be a domestic violence counselor, and don't get me wrong, maybe they have learned some things in their life, But man, when you do that, it takes something in you to do that. That you went over a ledge, you went over a cliff when you decide to do what happened to Cassie in that video. And I just don't think that that's something that he's going to be able to do. Now, I do think that it's something that others can learn from. Can he talk to people about what happened and after he did what he did? Yes. And why they shouldn't do it? Yes. But to actually go out and be a domestic violence counselor, that I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think his team should be talking about that. I think his tone should be apologetic. I think he should be. They should be talking about what he has done to rehab himself, and I think that's what you got to be careful about.
A lot of people feel like the video is the reason why he was prosecuted in the first place. As a criminal defense attorney, how do you feel about that?
You're damn right. That's the reason why, probably one of the reasons why he got prosecuted. And what I think also, once they look at the video and they start unpeeling layers of whatever was going on for that to even happen, I think that's what caused them to get indicted. People have to understand, men of money and men of influence and power and wealth, they live a different life than we live. They have access and they can get people to do stuff that we could only dream about. And so when you have certain things and you feel powerful, sometimes you can get out of line. I mean, I remember, and I hate to use this as an example, looking at an interview with Rick James, and just sometimes, I mean, Rick James was kind of arrogant, but he had power, he had influence, and people liked him. I remember him talking to one of my heroes, Don Cornelius on Soul Train, and Don Cornelius said, "Hey, man, hey, Rick, congratulations. I guess I was wrong about you. And, you've had some success, and I have had to change my mind when it comes to you." And Rick James looked at him and said, "Man, I ain't changing my mind. You still ain't going to be S, and you still ain't S." And so when you think about that, guys that have money, power, and influence, they walk around like they're Superman sometimes. And so when you have people like that, that at times they have been so pumped up that they feel like that they can do anything, sometimes you're going to get this kind of behavior. And sometimes they have to have a situation like Puffy's going through right now to bring them back down to earth. So that's what I think about what's happening.
So, as you know, I went to Sean Diddy Combs' trial every day, heard a lot of things. Cassie would talk about how Diddy was beating her on a regular basis. We actually saw the video. Jane Doe painted the picture that her and Diddy were together probably 3 years, and she was the first one to bang his head into the towel, and that's when he started to beat her. So, when a woman hits a man, is that any right legally for him to strike her? Tell us from a legal perspective.
You don't have to let somebody whoop your ass, as they say, to defend yourself. But I don't think it's smart as a man. And as a black man, I definitely don't think it's smart, because I think when the cops come, they're going to arrest you. I think that when you have a situation where a woman even hits you, like, in my attitude is, the minute she try to hit me, or even call the police on me, then we're going to break up. Because to me, even calling the police is you threaten my life, because I don't know what they're going to do or how they're going to treat me when they get there. I don't think it's right for any woman to hit a man or a man to hit a woman. But once again, a lot of our women don't understand. You cannot put your hands on people. You cannot put your hands on a man and expect every man to feel like I feel like. For the most part, I'm not going to touch you. It would take something crazy for me to even make contact with you. I'm going to try to avoid it to the 55th power. But people have to understand there are certain situations where you're placed in a position where you have to protect yourself. And I don't ever want a man to be in that position. And if you are a man watching this podcast, if you have a woman who cannot turn down the volume, if you have a woman who always has to get the last word, if you have a woman who threatens to call the police or call the police, break up with her. That's what I would do. Because in my eyes, I'm not the kind of man that's going to put my hand on you, number one, period. I never hit a woman in my life. And I feel like that if I'm in a relationship and I feel like that that's what I want to do, you are not making me the best version of myself. We don't need to be together, because there's no reason for me to do that. And so men have to be very careful. I look at the Sha'Carri Richardson, Christian Coleman situation that happened in track. And Sha'Carri got arrested, and Christian Coleman seemed like he was trying to walk away from whatever happened. But once again, a lot of our women came on here and said, he must have did something to her for her to do that. No, keep your hands off people. Keep your hands to yourself. I'm gonna teach my daughter that. Defend yourself if somebody hits you, but keep your hands to yourself. Don't you be running out hitting no man, put your hands on people, because every man ain't gonna be respectful like I am. And you should not be hitting on people when you're grown, because grown folks gonna hit you back. And so I don't think anybody should be hitting anybody. But once again, if you are a man and you are watching this podcast, they are probably going to arrest you unless it's on tape.
So let's say you get arrested by the police. Is there any circumstance where you could talk to the police to try to litigate or tell them your story if they have you in the room? Or should you wait and speak to your attorney?
I always wait and speak to the attorney, right? I tell people this all the time. I get so angry. I watch the first 48. And my wife will watch me watch the first 48. And I'll be up there screaming at the TV. Say lawyer. Say I want my lawyer. Say attorney. People have to understand, right? When you go in an interrogation room, most of the time, people have not been interrogated their entire life. Even if you have been interrogated once or twice, you're dealing with a professional interrogator who's probably interrogated hundreds of people in their career, sometimes even thousands of people in their career. They are going to be better at it than you. And you need to accept that fact. Some people have these egos like, I'm going to outsmart the detective. No, you're not. They're trained to be able to get certain information out of you. They're trained to be able to get information out of you. They're even allowed to lie in interrogation rooms to get you to say you did it. And in addition to that, certain behaviors like you think may not be criminal, may be criminal, and they can arrest you for those things. I always tell people, like, I have situations with aggravated assault in Texas. Let's say that I pull a gun, but I got it down to my side, but I don't point it to you. I don't point it at you. I don't shoot it at you. I don't raise it, but I take it out of my pocket and have it down to my side. Guess what I'm guilty of? Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And you're like, why, Calvin? I didn't point it. I didn't shoot it. I just took it out and had it to my side. The person who you took it out on had fear and belief that there was a possibility that you were going to use that particular weapon against them. So now I'm guilty of aggravated assault. And you're thinking like, I didn't commit a crime. I just took it out and I had it down on my side. I never pointed it. But see, as a regular citizen, you may not know the law in your particular state. And so you should not be talking to detectives and police officers without an attorney present, period.
In the case of a young man that we saw last week that was struck through the window of the car, that police officer was found not guilty of those claims or what have you. Is that normal?
I think it is normal, and I'll say this to you. Should you obey the police when they're trying to pull you over and they're asking you simple questions, they're asking you to identify yourself? I think that you should be, I think that you should respond, and I think you should be cooperative when it comes to that part of it. But I do not believe that the officer had the right to punch that man in his face. And see, that's where we're going to have a problem. Just because your police officer does not give you the right to do that to that particular individual in that situation. I don't think that the officers were afraid of anything. I don't think that that they were doing something that they should have been doing. I don't think that you should be punching people in the face just because you're a police officer. I don't think that that's right. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I just hope I'm never in that situation. You cannot do that to people in my eyes. But I think that a lot of people are going to look at that video and they're going to say, hey, he wasn't being cooperative. He wouldn't get out the car. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. So I think that you got to be extremely careful. I think you got to be extremely knowledgeable and careful when certain stuff happens. And like I said before, there are a lot of people in the comment section that are going to disagree with me, but you can't just hit me in my face, man. It ain't going to work. I don't care who you are. That's not going to work. I don't think you should be hitting people in their face. I don't think officers should be doing that. I think that's a problem.
It seems like we have a problem with everyday civilians trying to act as attorneys, and they do it in the car on side the road. Isn't that hazardous for young men to try nowadays?
I don't think you should do that. I think you should cooperate with the officer. If you got a cam in your car, and I think this particular individual had a dash cam, hey, man, let your dash cam catch everything. Your dash cam, you got your dash cam. In addition to that, the officers now have body cams. So you're going to be protected by kind of what happens, right? So I think that you should probably try to cooperate, because we don't want people on the side of the road fighting with police officers. We don't want officers being put in situations where they feel like that they got to grab you and pull out the car because they think you might have something in the car. And we also don't want officers punching people because it creates additional situations and it creates bad relationships between people of color and police officers, or just regular citizens and police officers. I think with all of the body cams now that they have, and if you got a dash cam on, man, cooperate. You got a dash cam. Your dash cam is going to protect you.
Okay, now getting back to Sean Diddy Combs, do you think it's excessive the amounts of time that they have tried to get bail since the verdict came in?
No, I think that you're going to want your guy to go home. I think you're going to try to get him home. But I think also them trying to get him bail wasn't just about him getting bail. I think it was also about trying to shoot your shot early and say, you won't give him bail. You shouldn't give him a large sentence too. A lot of these mind games are being played with the attorneys, the judges, and the prosecution. And I think that having a good attorney to help play that game with you is important. Like me, I'm going to know how to play that game. Some people go, well, I was locked up, man. I was in the system before. I know what I'm doing. No, you do not know what you're doing. I'm dealing with judges every day. I'm dealing with DAs every day. I'm dealing with probation officers every day. I've done PSRs for people. So I understand that game because I do it year after year after year after year on a repetitive basis. You're not going to be as good at it as a licensed attorney. Quit thinking that you are or you can be. Get somebody, hire somebody you trust and pay them.
Okay. So also when it comes to Diddy, do you think that because of all the times that he's been denied bail, that's a sure indication that the judge is going to throw the book at him?
When I say throw the book at him will be giving him 10 years. I don't think he's going to do that because I think he knows the backlash he'll get. I think he is allowing the state to try to justify that 51 to 63 month term. And I think he's going to try to fall between that range or fall on the low end of that. Of what the state is asking for, because to me, he doesn't want to get flack from people saying he gave too much time, but he doesn't want to get flack from people that said, hey, this man abused women, this man trafficked people, and he should get a certain amount of time. So I think that it's not excessive that they've asked for bail for these additional times, but I think it's also about the sentencing too as well. If you ain't gonna let him go home, don't hold him forever either. So I think that's kind of what his attorneys are probably trying to put in the judge's head and also put in the public's head.
Maureen Comey was fired, and Donald Trump, I believe he appointed Clay, and Clay is the new sheriff in town when it comes to the Southern District of New York. His letter, or the letter that came in most recent, basically said Diddy needs more time because the judge can factor in all of those negative behaviors. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that?
And see, that's the thing. And that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to justify giving him more time. But like I said before, I don't think they're going to try to max him or nothing like that. But I do think that they're going to try to give him more than 2 or 3 years. My guesstimation, when I say 2 or 3 years, he's already done 1 year. And so I think that he can take a class and get like another year knocked off. So to me, I think he'll have to do an additional 18 months up to an additional 3 years of time on what he's already done. That's kind of what my guess is. And that's just me guessing. Do I know for sure? No, but that's kind of what I'm guessing, okay?
In court, they mentioned that the probation department would also give input on his time. What does that mean? How does that work?
The probation department does this. They interview the individual. They take their past into account. They also look up the criminal history. So if he has misdemeanor convictions, he would get additional 1 point. On the point system. If he had a felony convictions, he gets an additional 3 points. And then they take the statute along with the point system and they go up and down based on what the federal government allows. And so certain things allow your points to go down and certain things add to your points. And so that's kind of what they're doing. And they're trying to come up with a range. And then what they do is they provide a sentencing recommendation after they interview Mr. Diddy and after they verify his criminal history. They come up with a range. They give it to the judge as a sentencing recommendation. And then the state, as well as the defense, gets to file motions to try to unjustify it or justify what the probation officer said. And the state, and their response is probably going to ask for more. The defense is probably going to ask for less. And when you have that, then you're going to have them arguing with the judge about should he get more, should he get less, and the judge will make that decision based on all the information that he's taken into account.
Okay, guys. Thank you, guys. Please hit the like button, share, and subscribe if you like the material. We're going to allow some to come up and ask questions. We have a criminal defense attorney here, Calvin Johnson. We appreciate having him here every week. We know how valuable it is to have an attorney to answer questions that probably we're puzzled about just in our everyday lives. So we look forward to having you guys come up. So I'm going to drop the link in a second. Calvin, Cassie's attorney has really been instrumental in putting the screws to Diddy. Do you think that's going to have an overall effect on his sentencing?
I think it can because of what happened to her. Now, I'll give you an example. I think she played a huge part in the freak-offs, and this is something that she definitely wanted to do in my eyes. And I think that she got paid for, she's actually promoting and pushing those freak-offs. But with that being said, nobody deserves to get their head kicked like a football. And I think the fact that she was the victim in that video and her wanting him to have some kind of punishment based on what happened to her in the video and the Kid Cudi situation and some of their history in terms of how she probably felt how he treated her, number one, and number two, the fact that he literally put hands and feet on her. She's going to have a say-so in this issue because, see, as a woman, and this is what this judge is trying to make sure, he doesn't want to come off as somebody who did not advocate for a victim who was really hurt by what happened to them. And that's why I really, as a defense attorney, I would hate the Diddy video of him kicking her because it would cause me a huge problem with perception and potential time sentences when I'm basically going open in front of a judge.
Thank you for that breakdown. So we have to move along to Carmelo Anthony. Could you give us an update on this case that's happening right in your state as well?
Well, I know John Roach Jr. I actually did a little summer work with the judge back in the day, and the judge has actually served as one of my mentors, to tell you the truth. He showed me how to do a lot of stuff when I very first started practicing law. I'm thankful to Mr. Judge Roach and his family. They've served me well. They've helped me along my way. But knowing Judge Roach, he is a very stern judge. He's very about the book. He's going to run an efficient court. He literally put a gag order on anybody related to the case, which means the public relations people, the people of the court, the attorneys. He put a gag order where they can't really talk about the case in public, that they are precluded from talking about the case in public. And so the Dominic Alexanders, the Charleston Whites, if they are being hired to speak as public relations people, they have kind of been muzzled. And this judge runs a tight ship, and he will have no foolishness when it comes to that.
For those that may not be acquainted with the case, can you give us a general breakdown of the structure of the case?
Basically, two individuals got in trouble. It was raining out. One individual from one school decided to set on another school's tent, and there was some kind of altercation inside that tent. Mr. Anthony pulled out a weapon and stabbed the other kid, Austin, in the chest, and Metcalf in the chest, and Mr. Metcalf proceeded to die based on that stabbing. And when the officers caught up with Mr. Anthony, he told them it was self-defense. And so we don't know exactly what happened in that tent. There's been a video released. Some people say, based on that, I watched the video, there was not a huge altercation in that particular tent. Some people have said that there was no reason for him to take self-defense to that level by taking out a knife and stabbing somebody in their heart. And then there are other people on the other side that say, hey, he was being bullied. It was 2-on-1. He was in a tent just trying to get from under the rain, and he had the right to defend himself. And those are the two arguments. And there's going to be a huge self-defense issue. Number one, was he entitled to use self-defense in that situation? And was he entitled to take self-defense that far? And does the law allow him to take self-defense that far? And so you had a black kid stabbing a white kid in Frisco, Texas at a track meet. And there's so many questions that have to be answered. Should he have had a knife? Should they have resolved this issue without fighting? Was he being threatened? Was there any interactions between the two before that to where he felt like he was bullied? Is that even important here? Did he have the right to respond in a manner upon which he stabbed another young man in his chest? And should he be allowed to take things that far? So Those are a lot of the questions that have to be answered, and those are the things that we need to get the answers to.
How would they choose a jury when everyone probably knows about this case?
It's going to be hard. They're going to try to probably figure out who hasn't heard about it, and since some people have heard about it, but maybe have not commented on it, so they're going to try to find a jury of his peers as closely as they can. But I think that's probably why Judge Roach is trying to make sure that there's a gag order so that the case doesn't stay in the news so much to where they can try to find a good jury. But it's going to be hard.
Okay, how much does public opinion play when you're going into a trial?
Huge, because those potential people are going to be jurors. In addition to that, everybody watches how the public feels about something. So you got to be careful about how you portray your defendant or portray the victim. And you got to be careful of what you say and what you do when you're working a case like this. That's why I tell people, some people think I don't hate Dominique Alexander or Charleston White or anybody else that was connected to the case. It's just that when I have a case, you're not going to be talking. That's just how it is. That's how I run a case. Whether you like it or not, you're not going to be out there running your mouth because you're not going to put my career and my work into danger, and you're not going to put the defendant in danger. And plus, there's no privilege between a spokesman and a client. The only privilege that exists is between me and the client. So I'm not going to let you be out there doing a lot of talking.
All right. So final question for you before we invite people to come on stage. When it comes to this type of case, being a defense attorney, an excellent one at that, would you try to deter people that are associated with law enforcement away from the jury pool?
Yes. When it comes to which trial, the Carmelo Anthony trial?
Yes.
Yeah, because, people that are involved in law enforcement, if they end up on my jury, I'm going to strike them for the most part, because as a criminal defense attorney, I'm thinking that they're going to be more for the prosecution. And a lot of them, I've always worked with the prosecution, and their attitudes toward crimes don't benefit my criminal defendant.
Is it common that for some of these jury pools that attorneys come in right off the bat, striking the different races off the top?
Can't do that. That's against the law. You can't strike somebody based on race.
Okay. All right.
Under the Baston, there's a law. There's a case in Baston. You cannot strike, though, on that. That's a problem. You can't do that. Can't strike them based on race. And sometimes it can look like you struck them based on race, but you got to have other legitimate reasons for striking them.
What about religion? Can they strike you for religion?
They're not supposed to do that. They're not supposed to discriminate you based on your religion and those type of things. Now, some people that are overly religious based on the fact that while you're doing your voir dire, which means questioning them, you felt like they said something or they acted a certain way or they gave a dirty look a particular way, you can get rid of them because of that, but you can't go based just off of religion or race. You can't do that.
Okay, very good. All right, so that does it for our segment of the show. If anyone would like to come up and ask questions, feel free to do so now. It looks like DJ Genesis has a question.
Oh, yeah, I had a question. So I heard that Donald Trump was asked a question about pardoning Diddy. And when he was asked that question, he was saying that he didn't agree with Diddy, and that he also, I think that Diddy had said some bad things about him. Yes. And so that's the reason why he's not going to pardon him. Yes. Is that a normal thing? Can a president just do that out of like, you said this to me or whatever, so I'm not going to pardon you? Is that like legal?
Listen, it's not something that I would want my president doing or want any president doing. But because he has pardon power, he has the right to do that. We may not like it, but the power is there. The power has been used by several presidents to pardon people for several crimes and several sentences in the past. And so when it comes down to it, do we like the fact that he can do that? Maybe we don't like that fact, but he has the right to be able to do it. And that is what it is.
Yeah. And also, I watch a lot of police videos and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they use this thing of articulable suspicion of a crime. A lot of people, they will not show their ID because they'll say to the police, well, I'm not a victim of a crime. Why do you think people do this? And do you think that's a smart thing to do to begin to do that? Do you think you should just give your ID?
In Texas, you have to now. And they've made it to where you have to identify yourself when being asked to identify yourself. And so Texas, you have to show your ID. If not, it's going to be a failure to ID. And if you get a failure to ID, it creates a situation where now you're going to get arrested. Now they can get all the information they want to get. So my attitude, especially if you're in the state of Texas, identify yourself. Once you identify yourself and they check you out, at that point, you don't have to answer additional questions. You don't have to allow yourself to be detained or answer anything else. And then you're okay. But now in Texas, they make you identify yourself, and you kind of have to do that. And I would recommend that you do identify yourself when you're being stopped.
One last question. So I'm not sure if you've been aware of the Umar Johnson situation with the FDMG Academy.
Yes.
So now it's coming out that he owes a whole lot of money. What are your thoughts on that situation with the Umar Johnson and the Academy? Do you think that he should continue? Do you think that he's defrauding people? What do you think?
Do you really want me to answer that question?
Yeah.
Listen, the school is not being built. He's had several attempts to do this. It looks like this thing has been going on for about 9-10 years at this point. I think that personally, I have nothing against Dr. Umar Johnson. I understand how he feels about things. Sometimes I agree with him, sometimes I don't. But it's not a good look when you keep asking for money and you ask for money for 10 years and stuff doesn't get built. We don't have that time to kind of waste. I mean, you just lost a generation of boys right then and there during them 10 years. And so I don't think it's a good look. I don't think that people that are doing this, doing what he does, should be doing what they're doing, and to not have access to any money whatsoever because your bank account has been frozen is just not a good look. So that's just my opinion on Umar Johnson. And I pray for the brother. I wish him the best, but it's just not a good look right now when you're somebody who a lot of people look up to, and it looks like you've been saying that you're going to build something for 10 years that didn't happen. So, it's rough. It is what it is, but that's my opinion on that.
Okay, Queen, what do you have for us today? How are you?
Hey, everybody.
How you doing?
Why are you looking at me like that? Mel looking at me like, okay.
Yeah, listen, Queen is good because we always tell people perspective is important. When I say perspective, the way I see things, Mel sees things, Genesis, or even the world sees things may be different from you. And it's always good to bring somebody in who sees something different or feels something different, who's had a different life experience. So, hey, we welcome you on. We happy to see you. So don't worry about that, okay?
I ain't worried about it. I said, I looked at Calvin. I said, oh, there you go.
Oh, here she go. Like, here you go. Okay.
Hey, that's gonna be me and your joke. You too, Mel. Listen, how you doing, Mel?
I'm okay. How are you?
Okay, Mel gonna come in with those caps on. He gonna throw them caps on. He gonna be like this with that suit. And that tie ain't gonna be bent, but one way, and that's straight. And Mel say, just answer the question, please. I got you, Mel. So listen,
right.
How you doing, DJ? Mel. Calvin. I know I don't think this is what we're talking about, but I'm glad to see that Senator is accepting that redirection now over there in Texas. I think we kind of talked about that. Why are you smiling? Why you want to see?
No, listen, let me tell you this. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Listen, I always tell people the reason why this is happening is because I think, and we've had this conversation several times, I think that party took positions without talking to its constituents. Mm-hmm. And they took a position without making sure that the majority of the people that vote for them was in support of some of those things.
Right.
And when you do that and the voting public makes a different decision, now a particular group has a level of power. Now they want to get rid of you. Right. So elections have consequences. That means you get to pick, like if you win the fight, then you get to pick what we eat tonight. Or we get to pick if we put you on the table. So it is what it is. That's just life. And so in the future, people that are upset and have had to run out the state in the future, make sure you understand one thing. Pick a platform, pick positions, listen to your voters so you don't have to run out of the state. And that's just being honest.
Mm-hmm. But I was talking about, how do you think she feel now that they're getting away with redirecting her, but she's appreciating this move now because she see wherever she's going at, it's going to lead her to different places. And anytime they pull little stunts like this, just go with the flow, because you could be the next Black governor in that state. if she just keep going and not hold on to one area. Now she understand, okay, they moved me from here, but it might have been divinely led for me to go from here. Now there, I'm going over here, but guess what? Now that I'm here, I see where it's some benefits there, because I already got this community, and there's more than just Black people that don't like Trump. There's a lot of white and minorities that don't like Trump. So now she could be going in another community, building up that district, building up that community. Now she have 2 of them, and to get to a governor, you need to have the whole everybody combined. So her being redistricted, to me, it's a blessing to the state.
But this is
her up.
But this is my problem with that. And I always tell people, the way it's being done, it seemed like because you dissented with me and Mark Beasy dissented with me and Al Green dissented with me, and let's be honest, those are probably 3 of the most vocal people that are up against the agenda that's being pushed right now. And not only do you push back on me, which you have the right to do, but when you start redrawing districts and you literally try to push me all the way out of Congress, the reason, Queen, I don't want that to start happening is because when the Democrats get in power, then they start doing it. And then next thing you know, we're spending our time doing all of this redistricting, and it's wasting time when we can be dealing with our immigration issues, our financial issues, our medical issues, education issues, all of those types of things. When you start to use your power like that as one party, the next party is going to do it. And I don't know if that's going to be beneficial, because I think that we're going to start spending a lot of time.
But she's happy with it. But right now she's happy with it, Calvin. And I wanted to say, so the last few times that there's been a redistricting in states, I mean, you can admit that it's been from the Democrats, right?
I can admit that.
Okay, so now that it's being done from the Republicans, I wonder why it's like a tantrum now. It's happened on the Democrat side. So now the time when it's happened with the Republican side, like, why is it such a tantrum when it was taken on the other side more than one time?
And I'll tell you why, because when it
was
done,
it fair when they did it, but it's not fair now?
It was done when it was done. You had people all over the state affected. You had white folks, some Black folks, some Hispanics affected, and when we talk color. But in the situation where you have this situation, it specifically tried to knock out 3 of the most vocal opponents who happen to be African American. And if you are African American in this country, you'll be foolish not to think and look at that and say, dang, you know, the 4 or 5 seats they knocked out was our seats. But you got to look at that. I mean, listen, you got to look at that, and whether you want to think it's racist or not, you got to be aware that just happened. Right. And so that's the problem that has happened. In the past, it didn't affect just one race of people. In this situation, they literally killed and drew districts that did not have a majority African American person in one of the largest metropolitan areas in the United States. And you can't do that. If you're doing that, that's not right. And it happened in my district. And because I live down here, I know that these communities don't go together. I know how far away they are. I know that the way that they drew the district cut through all kind of different communities to make this district up. The district looks like an etch-a-sketch that a 3rd grader did. So I don't think that we should be drawing those maps that way, not just because of color, but because of geography too as well. Right. Because once again, let's look at geography. The way that they are trying to draw this map includes a lot of the North with the South. And the South, a lot of this down here is kind of underdeveloped, and they have different kind of challenges. Up North, they have different kind of challenges that they can focus on. It's not going to benefit having us be in this district when we're trying to work on developmental issues in our own district. And so those are the kind of things that, like I said, I continuously talk to people about, to live down here in Texas and to look where they try to put A with B. I have enough common sense to know.
Right. Huh. You know, I could go on and on about that, though. So I'm gonna turn it back to the show, because I really want to talk about that, because I feel like she got a better foot in the game than anybody. And if she's that strong of a party, I don't know, why wouldn't she be one of the footprints in the state to start changing things, especially if you all see right. So if she's a footprint in the state to start changing things like Trump is doing, then I think that she should stand firm in whatever her democracy is. Just keep going. Don't let one community stop you. So that means you're only supposed to be there just to build up one community. So what would she need to do to start elevating to even become become the next governor in the state if she only got to stay and protect one area when she's already built that area up. Start building other people up in the community. Start turning the train over. Listen, like I say to some of these billionaires and Al Sharpton them and all y'all that don't want to support the voices, because it's the voices that are more important these days, not the party style, not the color, not because it's Trump. It's the voices. And what they don't like to do is pass it on. You know that song by Patti LaBelle? She say, pass it on, pass it on, pass it on to other people. That's how you start building formations in communities. She can't just sit in one area and build the same community. And then by the time she get ready to grow, where she gonna go at? That's what she boxed in.
But my whole thing is she's in the middle of building that community. And don't get me wrong,
the community already built. That's why they voted for her.
I get it, but no, it's not already built. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here. And because I voted for that person and because that person dissents with you, you take their office. I'm just not going to agree with that. I'm just not what I'm going to do. Because I think that when you start to do that, when the next party gets there, then we start removing people that just dissent with you. That's just that's not smart long term. That's just my attitude toward it. But that's kind of where I'm at with that.
But why didn't she? I mean, but again, I get what you're saying, because the Democrats did it a few times now and it was okay with it. But now that, but her deciding now that, yes, I want to move on and I don't mind being redistricting because I see where I could benefit in that area. Then now that everybody has so much faith, now what do you do? Because she's agreeing to move on and she see where it's going to benefit her. So now that there's a community that don't have her anymore, now what do you all do? So if you didn't build up another one of her, what do you do now? Because when they say mule die, buy you another one, Igga die, hire you one more. So what happens now that she's moved on?
In the current environment, because everybody's far left and because of everybody's far left and far right, that's the problem. That's why people don't want to move on. They want to have their representative advocate for them. And in the current environment, you just can't do it. But that is what it is. What can we do?
Okay, so Reverend Greenback says, go ahead, DJ.
I just had something to say on the subject. I think that that the reason why people also don't like the redistricting idea is because, of course, Jasmine Crockett is very aware of the area that she is working in. She's been there for a while working in that area. And of course, she's going to be more familiar with the issues that are in that area. If you just throw this in the middle of a term in the hands of other people, which they're saying this fight could last for years. This is what the governor said. This could be a fight that's going to go on for years. Okay. But like, it's just holding things up. It's holding progress up. And how can she know how to continue in her area when she's over here fighting her redistricting versus focusing on what needs to be done in her area and things like that? It's just taking the attention off of that. For what reason? For what?
So I want to say something to that. Then I would like to say this: if it was about the people, and we don't want the redistricting, and we don't want this, and we don't want the other, isn't there a lot of victims over there that's been flooded out? I mean, because if it's about a people, then you're not going to run and take any kind of vacation. You're not going to do that because it's about the people. If you're making it about the people and not the party style and not the title and not where you're going to throw me at, if it's about the people and those people over there, and it's a good thing that the Lord put them side by side like that, because he made you get a choice where either you're going to worry about the people here that's flooded out or you're going to worry about your title. So who should take the loss now? The people that's flooded out? Because it seemed like they're the one taking the loss, but everybody care about them. But there's only one party that ran.
And let me say this. I think that it gets you to a point where we're going to have to agree to disagree, because I'm not going for it. You don't get to come in and draw my district out for somebody that I voted in, because I know based on what was happening in my community, what we needed. And to try to put me with a community that we don't even mix with, that we don't have a relationship with, that don't have the challenges that we have in our community is not something we should be doing. I think not only does that hurt us when it comes to what's happening with Jasmine Crockett, even in the city of Dallas, it's hurt us because in Southern Dallas, like where I'm from and where I got folk at, is different from Buckner Terrace, and that part of the county or that part of our district controls everything now, and it's actually hurt us. So I've been a victim of that twice, and I definitely understand how that feels. And so it is what it is. Hey, great points, Queen. Great points, DJ Genesis. But let's move on to other topics. Mel, what you got for us, big dog?
All right. So Reverend Greenback says Jasmine Crockett got no roots in Texas.
I I would tell people she does have roots in Texas. She's not specifically from the Dallas area, but she does have some roots in Texas. You may not agree with her. I don't always agree with what she does all the time, but at the same time, to say somebody doesn't have any roots, I don't think that that's fair. I remember when she did run, how hard she worked for the people in the community, how she would stop and talk to folks and help people, and how she took her time to go to every single community to actually win her House Rep race district that she ran for. She ran for House District 100, and she was not the favorite. And she got her boots on the ground, her and her team, and they went to every part of our district. They went to every event. They touched every piece of ground, and they won by a measly 1 to 2% of the vote. And so she's worked hard to be able to be in the position she's in. And now, like I said, I may not always agree with her, but I think that her and her people work hard. And anytime that I have asked her to find out something for me, or to make sure that a constituent that I know of needed some help with something, she and her team have been responsible to people in this community. And that's what I can vouch for as somebody that's in her district.
Okay, Fed Up Patriot says the left wants to continue to make Black people subservient. They use people to do their evil and sit back while they show how gullible they are. Get off that plantation. They're using you. What are your thoughts?
And this is what I tell people. I am no fool. I have been on a Democrat's butt about a lot of stuff. I consider myself an independent leaning Democrat at this point, because I am not for continuing to do what we have been doing. I think the Democratic Party at this point has supported a lot of issues and positions that do not in particular support what should be happening in my community, right? There are certain things in my community I think that are not helping the African-American population. And I think that if you are an African-American and you're in the Democratic Party, and 90% of your women vote for Democrats and 80% of your men vote for Democrats, we should not have an issue with getting the things that we need to get taken care of when we have the numbers that we have. And I think that I've even ran into situations where part of the coalition has tried to tell me, oh, don't talk about that right now. And I'm like, yes, as a Black man, I have a concern about that, and I'm not going to be quiet about it. Then I had another part of the coalition tell me, don't worry about that. Y'all going to have to wait. No, I'm not going to have to wait. And see, that's the problem. The Democratic Party at this point, and when dealing with some of us, they think that we can wait. We've waited long enough. And see, that's the part of the problem that I, as a person, I will personally hold the Democrats to task if I'm ever elected for anything. I look at what happened in Chicago, and I think it's a travesty. They spent $1 billion on the immigrants, and these African-American people for the last 50, 60, 70, 80 years have been asking for investment in the community. And all of a sudden, a group of people that came over here were not citizens, and you gave them $1 billion worth of aid. Man, you can't do that. You can't justify that. So when it comes to talking about somebody's on the Democratic plantation, no, I don't view it that way. I'm also not going to go and be on the other side with people who don't like African-American people, who quietly will say, yeah, y'all come over here. It's okay. Come with us. We're going to show y'all another way. And then when they have that meeting after the meeting, hey, we're just going to use those Negroes to win this next election. I'm also not fool enough to go far right or far left. I'm going to call it what it is.
Okay, George Burrows says the Democrats let in 20 million illegals to gerrymander.
And see, that's the thing. Those people are can't vote. Those people cannot can hold these positions in elected positions. And I definitely understand how some people feel about immigrants. And listen, I'm not an anti-immigrant person, but I do understand that there needs to be a viable way to allow people to immigrate this country. They shouldn't just be able to walk over and start living here and start having the rights that regular citizens have. I definitely agree with people that say that, and I definitely understand that. But at the same time, like I said before, there are a lot of African Americans who feel like I feel like, hey, y'all can't just give these folks who just walked over for everything that they want when we've been asking for the things for the last 50, 60, 70 years. And then on top of that, we actually can vote. And on top of that, 90% of our women and 80% of our men are actually voting for your party. No, you're not. You don't get to just push us to the side. That's why you see a lot of African-American men starting to leak over for Trump or deciding not to vote, as well as some African-American women. But African-American men in particular are deciding that they're going to be like, hey, no, we're not doing that. And see, that's the thing that where we headed. You know, a lot of people will say we shouldn't be talking about race, we shouldn't be doing this and that. But let's be honest, I think that if you know a race, you're foolish. But I also think that race can't be your answer for everything that has happened to you, everything that's going wrong in your life. I'm not the kind of black person that's going to say, I'm being held back by the white man. No, I feel like sometimes that can be part of the situation, but I'm also being held back by myself and by some of my own people. And I'm also being held back by some of the decisions and some of the mindsets that my own people have. I'm also being held back by the fact that as African Americans, sometimes we have to be able to deal with our own issues. And we just can't point out white folks for all of our problems. And at the end of the day, that's just kind of what it is. And as a people, and I'm gonna say this, Mel, if your success depends on what somebody else is going to do or not do for you, you have already failed. That's just my attitude. A lot of black people won't prescribe to that. I'm one that does. If your success depends on what another group of people who don't look like you will do for you or will not do for you, you've already failed. It's on us.
All right. David Allen says, explain why blacks don't practice what they preach. All crimes majority done by them, period.
That's not true, number one. And number two, if you look at the figures, that's not just flat, that's not true. And a lot of the problem that you have is a lot of the blacks live in the inner city, so you have crime on crime. You have population centers and dense population areas. And so those people are actually, because they're in the proximity of each other, they're committing crimes on each other. And so that's where a lot of crime happens. We have cities that have a lot of crime because you have a lot of African-American people living on top of each other. And that's why a lot of that stuff is happening. So when people say that, we're talking about population centers and density. And I think that's why you have a lot of crime that happens in African-American communities. And a lot of times you'll have a lot of African-American, black on black, and sometimes if you include the Hispanics, brown on brown crime.
Okay, JDP says, welcome in and thank you for joining the Watching the World. Please be respectful to the host, guests, and everyone in the chat. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe in the meantime and enjoy the live. Lolly says, I'm a black woman that voted for Trump for the past 2 elections, and I feel like I've gotten more out of the vote than any other vote I've made in 30 years as a Democrat. What do you think?
And this is what I'll tell people. There are a lot of African Americans that are tired of the way that our people are going. There was a recent video of some kids going into Walgreens down here in Dallas, Texas, and stealing. And they were using profanity. And they seemed like they were okay with stealing. And then their sister came on and justified the fact that they were stealing. And so when we have situations like that, there are a lot of people in our community that think that we as a culture, we're going in the wrong direction. In addition to that, a lot of people feel like that we only look at conflict with white folks as the determination of how good or not good we're going to do. There are certain things in our community that we can do a better job which includes raising our children, making sure that we have certain values, making sure that we teach our children respect, and we teach them basic rules. We teach them basic etiquette. There's a lot of people that feel like African Americans and the African American communities can do a better job of doing that. And see, this kind of conversation is one conversation that is not happening in the Democratic Party. A lot of people in the party will not want to have this conversation talking about how groups inside of the party can do a better job in their areas and in their groups to make their situation better. I'm going to do that. I'm going to hold my brothers and sisters and the people in my community. I'm going to hold their foot to the fire. I'm not just going to go, hey, Trump and the Republicans and the MAGA people are the source of all our problems. No, some of the problems that we have are self-inflicted. And I think that's how I feel about that. And I can understand somebody asking the question and feeling that particular way. Okay.
John Q says black communities are getting hurt worse by illegal aliens.
Hey, there's some people that feel that way. There's some people that feel like that they're coming in our communities, that they're taking stuff over. And in Chicago, when you look what happened in Chicago, and I keep having to point to Chicago, but there are some folks up there that are pissed because they feel like their mayor, who they elected, they entrusted, spent over $1 billion or a few $1 billion and aid and housing those particular groups of people when they have been asking for years, decades, to get the kind of reinvestment in their communities that they need. They feel like as taxpayers that money was taken to take care of people that were not even citizens. They feel like their money was taken to give to other people. And when they asked for their money to be reinvested in their communities, that they did not get that investment. And so a lot of people will feel like, hey, people coming in like that, they're changing the communities, they're buying up the property, they're opening their businesses, and they're pushing our businesses out. There's a lot of people that feel when I can't blame them when it comes to that. Like I said, I'm not an anti-immigrant. I have nothing against people that want to come here, but there has to be some kind of way to get them here in a way that is good, not just letting them walk over.
Tyler Durden says the problems we have are white supremacy.
This is the issue. Is white supremacy a problem in America? Of course it is. That's part of the problem. Is it all of the problem? No, it's not. And the reason why I say it's not all the problem, because I have an attitude, and I don't want to sound arrogant here, but I have an attitude that Black people got to start doing what's best for Black people and not be afraid to do that. Black people have to take responsibility inside their homes. Unfortunately, today is not a happy day for me because somebody who raised me passed away. I just watched them take their last breath this morning. She was my grandmother's. She's like my aunt. Her and my grandmother was basically best friends, and she was one of my confidants. But you know what they taught us? They taught us respect. They taught us that we had to be home at a certain time. They put the belt to us and the switch to us when we misbehaved. They taught us that we needed to walk out of the household and respect our family's name, and that we walked out and we made something out of ourselves. My grandmother and that lady, those are the two people who raised me. So coming out of two of the roughest communities in Dallas, because I had a raising from Willie Mae Bat Richardson and Mary Ann Johnson, those two ladies helped raise me. My grandfather worked all the time, brought the money in, but those ladies raised me. And those ladies taught me the kind of respect that needs to be taught in the African American community. And if the African American community had people like that and listened to the people like that, our elders, we'd be a lot better off.
Okay. Fed Up Patriot says, I live 2 hours south of Chicago, and the native Chicago people want the illegals out. O-U-T. We have the worst governor in the United States. He's worse than Gavin Newsom. The rat's name is J.B. Pritzker. What are your thoughts?
I think that they're going to have some problems because the people in Chicago are pissed. Chicago red is the thing, and I can't blame them. I give an example, and I won't say too much, but I have a friend who has a restaurant in Chicago. And then when we're in Dallas, we go in, top flight experience. When he goes to DC, walk in, top flight experience. But when you go to Chicago, I felt funny because they had to pat my people down going in. I took some business folks with me to an upscale restaurant in downtown Chicago, and they had to pat them down. I want you to think about that. Now, thank God he has moved his restaurant to a nicer place where he can control that environment a little bit better, so he ain't got to worry about that. But the fact that that had to happen at an upscale place in downtown Chicago, owned by an African-American man, ought to tell you something.
MC says, if you lived in the Chicago area, you would see how much white trash we have to deal with.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. That's a whole nother thing within itself. You know, I always try to tell people, and we got to also realize a couple of things. Some people think discrimination is always race. Nah, discrimination is economic. What they will do is they will get poor white people to hate Black people. They'll make the poor white people think that you don't have anything because them Black folks took what you would have. And the white folks that are well-to-do will tell the poor white people to hate the Black man, when truly those same white people are actually taking advantage of their own white people. And that's the biggest grift in all of this. A lot of times we are put and pit up against each other based on color when it's just economics.
Okay. Watching New York City says more people get shot per capita in Republican states than blue states. Ignorance here.
That could be true. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, we carry in the red states, they're gonna carry their weapons. And I always try to tell people when it comes to the cities that have crime, it's because people are on top of people. And when you have people on top of people, crime is just gonna happen because they're living in smaller condensed areas. But you get people that get shot in other states. I mean, there's crime in other states. And then you think about it, most of the time, when the mass shootings happen, who's the mass shooter? It ain't us. So when you start thinking about those types of things in those situations, you know, that's a whole nother thing within itself.
Right. Asher says blacks need to use their time to better themselves. Now is the time.
I tell people when I ran for office in Dallas, I had a slogan. And y'all know what my slogan was? My slogan literally was, "It's on us." 3 simple words. It was on my shirt. I remember knocking on a black lady's door, and she was kind of agitated at first that I knocked on the door, that I disturbed her. I walked away, and on the back of my shirt, it said, "It's on us." She immediately got on the phone, looked up my campaign, looked up my phone number, and she called me.
Right.
And said, "I was angry at first, but I saw what was on your shirt. I looked at your platform, and today me and my husband went in and we voted for you." And that made me feel good because I truly believe when it comes down to it, that we can point to Trump and we can point to Republicans and we can point to white folks all we want to. We better make our own situations better. And we better quit living in a world that says that they have that much control over what happens to us, that we don't control what we can't control.
I have a question.
KT says that's why the red states are so poor. They have been snatching everything from everybody for years.
That's, you know, I try to tell people the red states, some of them don't have any money. And a lot of the red states like West Virginia and Kentucky, they survive on what the blue states are giving the federal government. They don't take enough revenue up. So as they can get mad at our cities and our blue states and all our high on crime neighborhoods and cities, but those high on crime neighborhoods and cities give some of the tax money that allow your little state to exist.
Okay.
I have a
Joshua
question.
Johnson.
Yeah, I have a question. I don't want to get too far because he mentioned something a little bit earlier where he talked about education.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if you have heard about Trump wanting to reduce the school year down to 6 months. And also he's going to bring in corporal punishment and let that be a new thing as well. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that we should get back to corporal punishment within the school system and then reduce the school year? And how do you think it's going to affect the community?
I don't think you should reduce the school year because I think there's a system in place that we should get our kids educated and the school year should stay how it is. I think we need to do a better job of educating our children. And I do understand at some level that people that misbehave are really hurting the people that behave and that really want to learn.
Right.
But should we advocate on whooping kids and hitting kids? I don't know if that's going to work out well. I think that's too dangerous. But I think there has to be a way to deal with folks who don't want to come to school and behave. And as a community, an African-American community, let's be honest, I'm going to make a lot of people mad. We got too many households where there are no men and there are no dads in them. And as hard as you think you can do it as a woman to raise a boy, and you know, man, you are raising people that particularly going to end up in prison. There has to be a man there to say, "Hey, boy," that man boy's got to come across there and say, "Hey, boy, hey, girl, come sit down, come do this, come do that." There are certain things that a woman gives a child, and there are certain things that a man gives a child. A man can't give a child what a woman can give him. But also a woman can't give a child what a man can give them sometimes. And we need to be okay with that. There's nothing wrong with feeling that way.
Agree.
Thanks. You know, Quinn, you know what I'm talking about. You know where we at with that, right? There's nothing wrong with saying that.
Telling you, man. That's how you make it grow.
And then one last question I wanted to ask.
Hold on, guys, we really got to let these people in the comment section get their questions off.
Yeah.
So I'll reserve the last 5 minutes for
additional questions.
You guys question, but we have a lot of people here. Well,
yeah, they popping up.
We just lost quite a few. But anyway, Joshua Johnson says,
let's go ahead and go to the questions. What do you say?
Joshua Johnson says maybe we should focus on the fact that Trump is covering for a known PDF.
Well, I'm gonna tell y'all this, and we're gonna take a bunch of questions from people that question. So I want people to keep posting their questions because we want to keep answering them because that's number one, how we keep our audience. Number two, we want you to come here and get your information from the Legal Review Weekly. So we want to keep these questions coming. So is he covering for a pedo? I got to be careful because they'll, whatever.
PDF.
Is he covering for a PDF? He possibly could, because I think Epstein had a lot of money, he had a lot of influence. He controlled a lot of money and influence. And I think he's been around the Trumps, the Clintons, and a bunch of different people who had money. And so he possibly could be covering for that, because, and even with that being said, there might be situations where you were around him not knowing exactly to the level that he was doing something, but because you were connected with him, you don't want people to know that you connected with him that way. So he could be covering for people that are in that lifestyle. And I think that, to be honest with you, when it comes to Trump, I think he has a closer relationship with Epstein that he don't want people to know about, because it puts him in a bad light, and may put him in a light where people think that he was okay with Epstein doing that to the younger girls. Because when you look at it, I remember one of the first images of President Trump is him coming down the escalators and looking back at those younger girls, and that stuck in my head. And so he knows that there's some kind of perception, whether it's real or not, that he likes that, and he doesn't want to be connected with somebody who's done that, whether he did it or not. And that could just be a self-preservation thing.
Do you think there's other people on that list too? Because I heard some other names that might be on that list. I mean, and I'm talking about some real hivers that like to follow bees. I'm talking about some big names on there.
I think it could be, yes.
I just want to hold that for the last 5 minutes. Matthew says, city folks suck. That's why the state of Virginia called me in to do something as simple as renovating assisted living housing. Population is large, but why am I here?
When they say city folks suck, it's a situation where, and I tell people this too, if you're talking about West Virginia, whatever town you're from will not exist without city money. So the tax base in the city, the companies in the city, the tax revenue in the city actually allows the little towns in those little states like West Virginia to even exist. You wouldn't have mail service if it wasn't for the big cities providing these extra tax dollars in the tax base to allow that state to tax the big areas to take care of some of the small areas. Because the way the Walmarts and the other stores have come through, they've killed all your little businesses in your little towns. So I understand that you want to throw shade at the city. I have nothing against small towns. I love people from small towns. My grandfather grew up in a small town called Winona, Texas, right outside of Tyler, Texas. And so I got love for my small town people. But we exist. We help each other exist. You got the ways and we got the means. Let's be honest.
Okay. So you guys, if you can hit the like button, share, and subscribe, we have 2 more minutes to take questions, and then we'll go back to Queen and DJ. Melissa Olson says, Trump is trying to take us backwards, not forward.
I'll tell people this, and this is what we got to be careful about. The last 4 to 8 years, I was watching a video and they were talking about there's been a movement toward trans rights, LGBTQ rights. There's been a movement toward DEI. There's been a movement toward taking religion out of schools. There's been a movement toward those types of things. And certain communities don't feel like that is the direction that the country should go. And they feel like on the other side, as much as the people from the LGBT community and the DEI community and the and those communities feel like that they are finally being able to breathe and they're finally being able to get their rights taken care of, the other people feel like that they're being attacked. Like, I'll give you an example. I have a 7-year-old child and she's going to school. No, I don't want her right now to be taught about trans. I don't want her to be talking about gay. I don't want her to be talking about how she should change whatever gender she is, and that they have the right not to tell me if she's feeling a particular way. That I don't agree with that. And it's not that I'm anti-gay, anti-trans, anti-whatever. It's just that I feel like that is something that should be reserved for me. And I think a party that doesn't have the common sense to actually say that because they're scared to hurt somebody's feelings, I think they're foolish. I mean, that's just what it is. And so when we start talking about those types of things, that's where we have our issues. And that's kind of where I'm at. That they feel like this country went that direction without regard for in this direction. Some people said that doesn't happen in first grade. I don't want it happening first, second, third, fourth, or fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade. That's my job. That's my child. I get to say what I get to say what I want to say, and what happens with my child in my house. If you don't like that, I'm sorry. I ain't gonna agree with you just because it's gonna hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. Your feelings are hurt, but that's my child. My job is to raise my child, not to worry about your feelings. That's just where I'm at.
Okay, we're just going to take two more comments or questions. Pleasant Gift says Trump revived 20% of the black male vote.
He what?
He revived 20% of the black male vote.
And see, what's happening is, and I said this to people in the party, and I've had somebody get mad at me about this one. And because I'm once again, I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. I told the people, and even at our local Democratic Party, we had a problem, right? If you worried about Democratic turnout, I was talking to a lot of brothers and sisters that had this, a lot of brothers in particular that had decided, I'm not going to vote Democratic this time. I'm either going to sit it out, or I'm going to vote for Mr. Trump because I'm tired of doing the same thing we've done for the last 40 or 50 or 60 years. He's talking about doing something that's different. He's talking about creating a situation that's going to allow me to do the basic things. And I got to say this, y'all. I got to break this one thing down to y'all because I broke it down to somebody yesterday. I did a study. I looked at the Gallup, and they said that the Republicans put out front economic issues. They put out tariffs and those issues, and they put out immigration as their top three issues. And the Democrats were more worried about social issues that were non-economic. As a black man, if you're going to talk about economic issues, I want to be able to take care of my family. When you talk about immigrants, are the immigrants taking my job? I'm not really worried about that, but are they taking tax dollars to where now I can get the program I need to be able to do what I need to do? In addition to that, people are being led in the country. I don't know what they was doing over in their country. They could be serial killers for all I know. And so black men themselves, their job and their nature is to provide. Are you going to create a situation where I can provide and protect and earn enough living to make sure that I can take care of my traditional family? Or do I need to worry about things like what the Democrats put forward first? They put abortion first. They put allowing immigration first. They put LGBTQ first. They put DEI first. And even when it comes to DEI, black men really don't benefit from that. White women actually benefit from DEI before black men do. So when you think about that as a population and you start talking to African-American men, then you know what we kind of got was, now y'all should be voting. Y'all need to get locked in step. Matter of fact, this is how we're going to get y'all to vote. We're going to send Obama to wag his finger at us and tell us that we're going to be in trouble with Michelle if we don't vote. Boy, if you don't get out of here, what in the world were you talking about? Black men are not monolith. We're going to think about what we need to think about to make sure that we take care of our families and we progress in this life. And we're not going to wait till next time. We want ours now. And that's just what it is.
All right. So one final one. Lamont Smith says, anyone that is squirming the way Trump is doing, that convict is proven to have a sinister, sadistic way.
He said what? Anybody that's what?
Anybody that's squirming the way Trump is doing, that convict is proven to have a sinister, sadistic way.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with y'all. Look, Trump can be a Viking when it comes to certain situations. I'll say he can be a Viking. He going to go for it. I mean, he's going to go for the throat. That's how he got where he got. He didn't get where he got worrying about people's feelings. He's going to go for whatever he got to go for. But with that being said, is he hiding something? I think something's there, because something got to be there for you not to let these files out. And whether it's legitimate or not, he doesn't want people having a perception that he's cool with Epstein to that point because of what Epstein did and what Epstein had in his past. Now, I don't know what's there because I ain't saw it. But he told us they were going to release it. And then all of a sudden they start talking about something else. And all of a sudden I saw a file on the desk that was supposed to be some files. And now there's no files. No, you ain't going to play the game with me. And I'm not somebody that's just going to be so, and this is the problem I have. Some people are so pro-Trump that they can't realize that they getting game ran on them when it comes to that particular thing. No, man, you got to come on in. You got to come on into the TP and smoke the chief's pipe. Y'all know something is potentially there, or there's an optic there that looks like he has a bigger relationship than he had with them, at least. You have to at least be able to admit that.
So thank you guys for all the participation tonight with all the likes and all the comments and questions. Unfortunately, we didn't get to cover more questions, We're going to close out with a one question each from DJ and Queen, and then Calvin, you can close out.
Hold on, you do have a super chat.
Okay, we super chat. Is
Yep.
it true that Trump gave the Supreme Court the green light to stop black people from voting? Look it up. No, he can't do that. He can't do that. There are justices on there. They're not going to go for that. And even the conservative justices are not going to do that. Now, will they create situations where the party that's in power gets to draw the maps, draw bigger maps, draw more favorable maps? Probably yes. But they're not going to be able to stop black people from voting. We need to quit talking like that. That's not something that has happened. Now we got the super chat out the way, because that's another thing we got to start doing, pushing the super chats. And Queen, I guess it's your turn. Give me one question.
I'll go ahead and go before DJ. I'll go ahead and take my last turn. Thank you for having me here. Everybody in the chat, thank you for having me. Listening. Thank you, Mel, DJ. Thank you, Calvin. But you know what I want to say, Calvin? I know that you brought up just a few minutes ago about, you know, there's something in the Epstein files, and you're sure that there's something that Trump is hiding. And I'm not going to dig into that one, but I do want to say Epstein passed away quite a few years ago. And it's just so surreal that Elon Musk knew something that Trump was so passionate about, which is stopping these illegal immigrants from coming into our country. So what he did was he dropped the bombshell so everybody can get derailed, get all off the track, get in the boat, get in the water, and head back where you're supposed to go at, and then forget all about what we're trying to do to get our country under control. So I wanted to ask you this real quick. Do you by any chance think the same way you might feel as though Trump is holding something, you know, when it comes to the Epstein files? Not to say it's not important, but I think something that I would want to know, and I would like to put a couple people on the seat and let them answer me the question. You think Obama hid anything from us? Black people, poor people? You think there's anything Obama held from us as to why, once he got in office, why did we start getting such an influx of immigrants, illegal ones at that, legal ones at that? We got such an influx, and it made me think about, dog, Obama is over from Kenya, born from Kenya, and then mama and grandma over in Hawaii. I want to see where the ties come at, other than Michelle, that dropped him in the United States. And then once he got in around the end of Clinton term, somewhere into his term, and then Trump tried to get rid of it. Then Biden went to sleep for 4 years. He never wake up. He still asleep. You don't think Obama played a role with so many illegal immigrants that jumped on top of us and lived on top of us, including the veterans that we use to protect our country from? I
don't think so, because he actually was deporting. He was quietly deporting people at a higher rate. If you go look at the stats. Wait a minute. No. Listen, because it's true, because they pulled the stats. He was quietly deporting a lot more people he was deporting more people than Clinton and Biden. Outside of Trump, he deported more people than the other presidents who were in there. He was actually deporting a lot of people. So when people play that narrative about him, man, he was quietly, and some Hispanic groups are actually upset with him about that. He was deporting a lot of people. They were actually calling him the deporter in chief before Trump got ICE and got these people out now.
And I'll laugh at that too, but I'll go agree to disagree. But I have a problem with that, because if he did it and he knew it was such an influx, and he knew that it was burying the United States, it was burying the poor people, the black communities, the minorities, he knew it was burying us. Why would you keep that quiet instead of doing what Trump doing right now?
It's not keeping it quiet.
Trump putting it on the line and following the law. Why would he keep it quiet?
If the numbers bear he's deporting more people, it's not a matter of disagreeing. He's putting people out. You can't argue with the numbers.
But
he was deporting a lot more people. Listen, but he's deporting more people than the previous presidents. I can't make that up. We can go take a look at it. We can come back next time to talk about it. But
I'm saying, he deporting a lot of people. He could have put it on the table like Trump did to make the people that need to look out for it. He could have put it on the table to make the people aware of it, and he didn't. Why would you keep that a secret? Trump not keeping it a secret. He put it on the table.
It was a secret. He was just doing his job, getting those folks out of here, and he was literally doing that. So, and then when it comes to that, and when it comes to Trump and Epstein and that kind of deal, I'm a smart enough man to know that I'm not going to always support everything Obama did. I'm not going to support everything that Trump did. But I'm also knowing that Trump is very opportunistic. And I think that Trump does a lot of things, not because he's a man that's set on foundational principles. He sees an opportunity. He's going to take advantage of it. And I think that when we deal with him, I think it's foolish not to deal with him in that manner and understand that that's what he does. Genesis, get your question, because after that, I'm going to have to get out of here, y'all. And then we're going to stream again next week. Genesis, you get the final question of the day. What's going on? Oh, Obama holds the records for the most deportations. I told people. But go ahead and give me your last question, DJ. Okay.
So what do you think about with under this whole DEI executive order that, you know, we are now no longer supporting Black History Month, Women's History Month, you know, Martin Luther King's out the window, Juneteenth, everything, all of like the observances we had that he said that are DEI, including the Holocaust victims, whatever. Do you think that that is a good thing to do? Do you think that that is a bad thing to do?
Honestly, let's do this. Let's knock out a couple of things. I don't think the Holocaust, DEI, the Holocaust, Black History Month, Juneteenth, and Martin Luther King Day should be lumped in with DEI. That's the first thing. We should not be putting those things together. Those things are there to honor people who sacrificed and lost a lot of things. I love Dr. King for what he was able to do. Now, some of the things he did may have created additional problems when it comes to dealing with how we are as a society. But I think he cured more problems, and he was an example of what we should want people doing and being. So when it comes to those particular holidays and DEI, I don't think we should lump those things together. I think that would be a mistake. And I think that anybody in the Democratic Party that wants to lump DEI with those particular holidays, I think they're part of the problem. Because once again, we're trying to throw, when it comes to African Americans, when it comes to Dr. King, they're trying to throw stuff on our stuff that doesn't belong with us. And I'm going to be honest with you. We lost our lives. We got hanged. We got chased down. We got castrated. And people need to understand that you can't always put your struggle and always compare those struggles to other people. We got one more super chat, and then I'm going to go for the day. It was put in the bipartisan agreement by the Republican for better health care that Obama tried to push. And I definitely understand that it was. And he did try to push for better health care. He tried to make it work. But once again, we had a system that was in place, and some people were actually able to get coverage. Some people's coverages were hurt by Obamacare. But the problem is you got the medical industry that had benefited from it for decades and centuries, and they were really pushing back against it. And then even in some situations, when we had Obamacare, they were trying to charge too much for little simple things. But y'all listen, when we stream, I try to stream and try to cut our streams at a certain time. Once again, thank you, Jacoby Williams, my man, for the $5 super chat. Hey, man, come back and see us again. We're going to be here next Sunday. We may move the show to at night next Sunday, but we'll come and we'll announce that. We might try to stream a little bit more during the week. But thanks to everybody. Thanks to Queen. Thanks to DJ Genesis. Thanks to Mel. Thanks to everybody who tuned in to us today. The weekly legal review. We will continue. We will continue to do this every week. Subscribe, support, and like to help us with the algorithm. And we are currently signing off. Thank you and take care. Y'all take care.